Welcome to Live Action Star Wars Presents Data Link. I'm Ralph.
I'm James.
And today we are discussing Jar Jar Binks.
That's it. That is our episode for today. We are doing the Jar Jar episode.
Yeah. What's funny is as soon as I started this, my phone went off because apparently somewhere I have a notification set for when Live Action Star Wars goes live.
It's weird, isn't it? I get that sometimes, not every week, but if I've got work like at the end of the show, most of the time my calendar, like I don't have work as like an alert. I know I've got to go to work when I'm going to work, but sometimes we'll be at the show, like we'll be doing the show, and like 15 minutes before we're finishing, I'm like, I'll get a notification pop up and it'll be like, yeah, you got to go to work. I'm like, yeah, I know, like go away, I don't need you right now. Weird.
All right, so here's
how did this come about?
My sister on our Twitter account, which I think is the only account of that and the Getting Lost one are the only ones I'm really active on anymore. Mm-hmm. The rest are kind of there. I'm done.
Yeah.
But want to know something funny? Like, so I have an iPhone and I have all my social media shit into one folder.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a little tiny square with little tiny icons in it.
Smaller icons in there.
The Twitter one is still Twitter, but when you open it up, it changes to X. It's kind of funny.
That is kind of funny. Mine took a little while to switch over to the X thing, but as soon as it did, I was like, because I do the same thing. I always put my folders on like the second page of my home screen, and then the first page is like apps that I use all the time. I instantly, as soon as it changed, I was like, you go over onto the second page. You go into a folder now.
Yeah, I wonder if you can even. Oh, you're not even gonna be able to see it, but if you look, can I get it in there?
Oh, there. Yeah, I see it. Yes,
so
still the blue
tiny.
bird. Oh,
blue bird. But yeah, as soon as you open it up.
Yeah, there it is. I saw a few people who were
belong.
sort of saying, I saw a few people were like, as soon as they'd open it, it would flick over to X, but then as soon as it came out, it was reverting. It was like, I'm really here for my phone, like refusing to acknowledge X as a name. It's just great.
Anyway, over on Twitter, my sister called me out on this episode as soon as we announced that this is going to be the Jar Jar episode. And I gotta be honest, like it kind of wasn't me. Well, it sort of was. I
don't know. I feel like okay, so Ralph messaged me the other day and asked if I had any ideas for this Data Link episode. And I had just finished listening to the 5th episode of a different podcast. The Redemption of, or the Jar Jar Binks, The Redemption, or The Redemption of Jar Jar Binks. It's Dylan Marin. It's a TED Talk podcast, 6-part, half-an-hour episodes. The last one just came out today, and it's really good. And so I just finished listening to that. I didn't have any other suggestions, so I was like, "Well, I just finished listening to this. If you think you can listen to it, like we could talk about that, maybe." And you were like, "How about a Jar Jar episode?" Just Jar Jar in general. And my thought was like, okay, we'll talk about this podcast, but that will just lead into a conversation about Jar Jar. So it's one of those things where I was like, I don't think it's either of us in particular, but it's both of us have suggested this.
Yeah. So it's one of those things. So here's the deal. We found that on Data Link, no matter how minuscule the topic, we can go an hour talking about Star Wars, and we'll go off topic most likely.
Yep.
But yeah, I said to James also, like, anytime we don't know what a data link is, like what we're gonna do, let's just pick a character.
I love it. It's such
pick a character.
I can't believe it's taken us this long to think about it, like to do that, because it's such a good idea for what these data links are. It's like it's still Star Wars, but it can be about kind of anything, but using that as an anchor. Because I'm sure with this in particular, like, yeah, okay, it's the Jar Jar Binks episode, but you can't talk about Jar Jar without talking about Ahmed Best and everything that's happened with him, and just the grossness of the internet and the revival of that and how it's come around over like 20 years. I mean, I do. I think Jeremy's right. I do need an autograph saying that he's my best friend.
Or he's my other best friend, which is now framed back here. I used to just have it out, and I would just like it was just in between
popped
my
into the
books
show
and
a
my
few
shelf,
times,
and I'd pop it in. But now it kind of lives there permanently, so I can't grab it. But I'm sure you guys have seen it. Thanks to Kevin Stone, who got that for me. Like I didn't get that autograph from Ahmed Best.
So when was that he got that for you?
Oh geez, it was some sort of Star Wars days, not celebration, but it was at Walt Disney World.
Okay,
I would say maybe, oh my god, probably 10 years ago.
So that's interesting.
It was a while ago.
Yeah. It's before the sort of the general consensus had changed to like, it's almost not. It's okay to not like the character of Jar Jar, but it's kind of not cool to rag on him in the same way anymore because of everything that had happened and the way that that was interpreted and the way that it was also intended, I think, by a lot of people at the time. But it felt like from when I was listening to this podcast, I knew that Ahmed Best had been around. He obviously did the other two movies, and he'd pop up from now and then. He'd do some cons and stuff, but the way that they talk about it in this podcast is almost like he just went dark. Like he went off the grid. And I feel like that is a misconception because he was around still. It's just he wasn't ready and willing to talk about the struggles that he'd been through personally.
Right. So let's get into this.
Yeah.
1999. There's hype leading up to the Phantom Menace. I'm excited. It'd been
we've talked about
many years.
Our stories of going into the Phantom Menace, definitely. Yeah.
So let's talk about the character himself. When you first saw Jar Jar, was it a pizza box? I don't know what kind of stuff you guys had over there, but we had like the Taco Bell cups, which I'm sure you've seen.
We had Pizza Hut were all over it over here. Potentially KFC. I can't remember in particular. I would think that the first time I saw a picture would have been in like Star Wars Insider. It was just called the Star Wars magazine over here at the time. It would have probably been in there, or maybe like Empire or Total Film, something. Outside, no, it wouldn't have been on a website, not yet. So yeah, I'm thinking probably like 98, whenever we first were revealed, and I'd say it's more than likely it was Star Wars magazine that I first saw the character. And then there's all the hype, there's all the build up. I don't know what to expect necessarily. I read the novelization, so I got a feel for it before the character came out. And then my mum's partner, now husband, at the time he was a pilot, so he was in the States all the time. He saw the film before we got it because we got it a little bit later over here, a couple of months later. He saw it opening weekend because he was, I think, in New York. Said he really liked it, but didn't really like that character at all. Thought it was kind of weird. Compared him to Chris Tucker. And he hadn't liked Chris Tucker in Rush Hour.
Okay.
So that was his point of comparison. I remember that distinctly. And so I sort of had that knowledge going in. And then I saw a pirate copy of it. As I've talked about, I watched a pirate VHS of it before seeing it in the movie theaters. And I was 12 years old, and I was kind of like, okay. I didn't love him. I had friends at school who weren't big Star Wars fans probably the special editions and Shadows of the Empire, I want to say, is what got them into Star Wars at that age. So you're talking 96, 97. They might have read a book, they might not have. And then Phantom Menace comes out. It's the biggest movie ever. It's definitely targeted to my generation and younger, probably. And they, like, some of them loved Jar Jar, like right off the bat. They couldn't understand the hate. They thought he was hilarious. They thought he was fun. They thought he was goofy. They loved all of that. And then I had other friends, same age, who were like, shit, hate it. And they weren't even necessarily big Star Wars fans. At that time, I was the only one I would consider like a big Star Wars fan. I am the youngest of three. My brother and sister grew up with the original trilogy. It's always been a part of my life. So I watched it and I was kind of ambivalent to him. I didn't hate him. Definitely didn't hate him, but I also didn't think he was great. It was only a little bit like after that I started souring on the character. And I think it's because, I'm a teenager and like who wants that?
Yeah, like when I was a teenager, it was like, screw the Ewoks, they're for kids.
Yeah. And whereas I never had a problem with Ewoks because I'd grown up with them as a kid.
Yeah.
And then I've never had a problem with Ewoks.
Yeah. I sort of did a little tiny bit, but it went away pretty fast.
Yeah. Well, those Ewok movies came out, so
yeah, I'm like, why do I care? Like what, other people say. I could still like it. They just don't have to know. Now I don't care. Who knows? I remember seeing like the character like Jeremy Kelly probably on the oversized cup lids at Taco Bell. In fact, I don't have any of those. I never really collected them. Ben from the Dharma Lars collected a bunch of them.
Cool.
I remember liking the Captain Tarples one.
I thought
it looked cool.
I remember really liking Captain Tarples. I had I had all the toys from episode 1, and I thought Captain Tarples was great. I did that was the thing. Even when I started souring on Jar Jar as a character, I never had a problem with the Gungans, and I was like, Tarples is cool. I really like him. He seems like a badass general sort of character.
Yeah. So when episode 1 came out, I was 22. And I was excited for Star Wars, and I probably saw something where they're in the submarine with Obi-Wan, Qui-Gon, and Jar Jar.
The bongo.
And to me, that made me think, oh, this is this version of Chewbacca. This is the new Chewbacca. Is this alien thing that's hanging out in the co-pilot seat?
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. So I kind of had a sense of like, or like a predetermined sort of view on what the character was. And that's not what we got.
No.
I didn't care for the movie the first time I saw it. In fact, somewhere in a closet at my friend's house is video evidence that I did not like it. I need to have him dig it up and find it because I know it's out there somewhere.
Yeah.
If you want to see my immediate reaction. The thing with Jar Jar though is I knew he was going to be like the first CG character in a live action movie, like a first major character.
Even at 12, I was so sort of plugged into anything Star Wars that I knew all the behind the scenes stuff.
So there's the shot where we first meet Jar Jar and Qui-Gon tackles him, and they're sort of embracing underneath the droid tank as it goes by. And to this day, the lighting of that shot looks so good that I'm like, this looks like this character is here. And so from that point on, I was fascinated with the character from a technical side. I didn't care for the character that much because it's a bumbling idiot. A lot of people say, Roger Rabbit, because that was, an animated thing in live action with big ears and stuff.
Yep.
So that, and the voice also, sort of the high pitched voice makes sense. I understand the comparisons. And for a while I was like, I love the design. I love the Gungan design. It's so unique. Doesn't look like anything else. I think it really pushed the limit of what a Star Wars alien could look like.
I think the closest, and they don't look at all alike, but I think the closest comparison you could make would be Twi'leks. Because you've got that, and then you've got like different shapes and sizes. I think they were one of the first species that we saw different shapes and sizes you get. But I mean, even then we hadn't seen bigger Twi'leks until later in episode 1. So
yeah.
And
then with it being CG, they can mess with the dimensions on like the neck and the arms and stuff, and really kind of make it's still humanoid, and you get the humanoid performance, but all the dimensions are like definitely nothing like we've seen in Star Wars move around that much. Like it's not just a puppet, it's stapled to the wall like Joe Yowza in the original Return of the Jedi, or Slice Noodles where she's attached to rods. Like you get those crazy dimensions, but they're not moving around as great.
You can feel that they're a puppet. Yeah.
So with me, I was like, okay, technically this is the coolest thing.
Yeah.
Like this thing looks amazing. There's shots in it that look just absolutely like flawless.
Especially when you compare them, you compare it to 2 years earlier, and we saw the full CG Jabba or Joe Yowza or any of those full CG characters that have been put into. They looked terrible compared to Jar Jar.
Yeah. So the thing is, like, the character was dumb, bumbling, cartoony, just dorky, just like annoying. But that's how the character was written.
And like, yeah, no one isn't annoyed by Jar Jar. That's the thing.
And it's one of those things where I think to I've probably said it on here before, is George understands that in a galaxy full of unlimited creatures, they're not going to all be cool.
No.
They're not going to all be cool.
There's going to be
Chewbacca
goofy stuff.
was cool. Han Solo was cool. Luke Skywalker ended up... Everybody in Star Wars was so cool, except for 3PO.
Yeah.
You know? And so it's like... It's one of those things that I just loved that George did, was like, people have been waiting for this forever. People take this serious. It's supposed to be movies for kids. Not everything needs to be cool. You need someone... And it's like, behind the scenes, it's like one of the biggest outcast stories in Star Wars. Ahmed Best being bullied out of Star Wars and getting a redemption.
Being bullied out of like his career, like almost out of life. Yeah, like it's yeah.
But like with the character, with all of that going down, the character became more endearing to me, because it's like, this dude.
It's like, I never hated the dude.
Innocent.
Like, yeah,
he's an innocent. But like, but the character Jar Jar is an innocent character.
Yeah.
He even within his circles in Gungan City, he's an outcast. He's kind of a dope.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where, like, you know, that there was going to be an arc for him, because, you know,
George loved it.
As serialized as the movies are, and how much as they take from like Flash Gordon, where characters don't have arcs, they're just an archetype.
Yeah.
I feel like Jar Jar was set up in a way to sort of become like, to move beyond the buffoon. Even in this, they make him a general.
Yeah.
In the Phantom Menace, they make him a general,
and he bumbles his way through the battle, but he still like does stuff. Like, he is.
Yeah. But it's one of those things where, like, it got to the point where I almost feel like I became an ally of Jar Jar, the character. My text tones for I don't know how many years has been "excuse me."
Yep.
And one of the reasons why I picked it, because it's funny. Like, like, why? But also, like, when people use like the basic sort of ringtones that come with the phone, and it goes off, it could be anybody's phone, because nobody changes it. And I'm like, I'm going to make mine so unique that nobody's going to know.
It's always going to be you.
Nobody's going to know.
Yeah.
That it, you know, I'm going to know it's mine. Like, there's no way another person has "excuse me." Like, I put on like the Power Rangers communicator sound, which you hear a lot of. For a while on my old phone, like before smartphones, I had like the Chev Chelios from Crank, Jason Statham ringtone, and then I've heard that before.
Yeah, I feel like there was a big period in like the mid 2000s where loads of people had the 24 ringtone, like that do like that cool. Yeah, there was a bunch of those. I mean, my phone just lives on silent these days. I never hear it. I've got my watch buzzes, like that tells me when things are going on. Yeah,
I don't know if Tommy the Duck has my phone number, but if he wants to, I could take my phone off silent.
If anyone's in the chat and has Ralph's number, like, Ralph will take his phone off of silent for like the next 2 minutes.
Okay, I'm gonna turn up the ringer.
There we go.
I want to say Jeremy Kelly does.
I think Sarah's in the chat. I'm sure Sarah does.
Sarah's is different.
Oh,
if Sarah texts me,
you got a family one.
She has a unique one.
Okay.
Also Jar Jar. I have two Jar Jar ringtones. My basic one And oh no, why is it not? Okay, hold on.
Is it coming through to
Rick the
you?
Mint.
Is it coming through to your Mac?
Rick the Mint. No, it just didn't. It didn't sound.
Oh.
But Rick the Mint just just
Rick has. I don't even think Rick said hello in the chat, but he is watching.
He sent me a text and just said, "Hello, boyos." I'm gonna put on something else just so I can make sure my volume is okay. My volume is all the way up.
There we go.
So
and I could hear that, so we're
good. But yeah, I just got a thing that said "Hello, boys," and I'm wondering if it doesn't go because my it's also
you're on your computer,
computer
probably.
And if I turn messages off, oh, it's off. I'm gonna remove from dock. Maybe that'll stop it from showing up. But anyway, it's become one of those things where it just I was never super in love with the character.
Nope.
But now I totally am.
That's great.
I don't own a single Star Wars Black Series figure because I don't. I know if I go and get the Bosk one, I'm going to need to get the Wedge, and I'm going to need to get the Mon Mothma from Andor, and I need to get But there's one that I almost got. Well, there's two I almost got. One was Jackson because why would they do that?
Yeah. I was tempted. So I bought a few when I was still working at the comic shop, but I haven't bought any since. So the ones that I do have are up there. And then I bought the Donald Glover one because that was cool. But that was it.
Everybody's texting me, and it's just
it's just not coming through.
Silent. Oh,
hey,
there Rick's just came in. One of Rick's just came in. I don't know if Sarah's still around. If she does, hers says how rude.
That's great.
Because I wanted both of them.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I don't know.
You can split them.
I don't know where to.
Yeah.
But so what's fucked up is so now me and Stevie are so used to the ringtone because it's been my ringtone for probably like as long as I had a as long as I had a iPhone. That now when we watch the movie, when he says that's Sarah.
That's Sarah.
Every time you hear it in the movie,
you look at your phone.
It no longer sounds like dialogue. It
Yeah.
sounds like an audio clip. So for Stevie's ringtone or text tone now, it's the Wilhelm scream. And it stands out so much. Dude, I don't know if you watch The Righteous Gemstones.
No, I haven't. No.
It's incredible. But in the finale of season 3, which just aired on Sunday, dude, they put in a Wilhelm at the fucking stupidest, funniest time.
I feel like that's the thing with the Wilhelm these days is that it's always used because so many people know it and recognize it.
Right. But it doesn't like it's so not what that show's about.
Yeah, that's what I figured. I wasn't expecting it there.
And it was one of those things where the camera was on a person and he jumps over a railing at the church, and it was like focused on it. Like sometimes, in later
they try and
Star Wars movies, you kind of put it behind like one of the characters far away, so it's like kind of low in the mix.
Yeah.
But yeah, now when I listen to when I watch Star Wars, when I watch Episode 1, it sounds like it no longer sounds like dialogue.
It sounds like
it sounds like a soundboard.
Yeah.
It's so weird.
It's funny when you use something over and over and over again, it always becomes like that.
I have a couple James Bond ones that are weird.
Yeah, Lucha Johnny saying like a few that he's got here: Transformers transforming, Metal Gear Solid alert.
Jeremy Kelly said he had the Star Tours announcement chime for a time, and then Stevie, I made that for Stevie. I have fun making ringtones.
That's cool.
Just because
it wasn't a feature that you could do over here for a long time. Like it was some licensing thing on the UK iTunes store. You couldn't do ringtone thing. I haven't looked if you can now or not.
What would happen is they would have it in GarageBand. You can make ringtones in GarageBand. That used to be a feature.
Yeah.
And then you just put it into your iTunes. So now what you do is you get the audio you want. You go to any website that does this, and it'll convert it to ringtone format.
Okay.
So when you plug your phone into iTunes and it just has your thing up, the little box that says how much storage you have, you literally drop any ringtone file over that box. It doesn't tell you where to put it. You just put it into that box, and it'll go.
I can't remember the last time I plugged my phone into my computer, but yeah, no, that's good to know. All right. If I ever do decide to do it, I know how to now.
I'll make text tones. Yeah, I'll send them to you. I've done so many that are just random weird stuff.
If I think of anything in particular, I'll let you know.
I have like a ton of Price is Right music from the 70s and 80s on my phone.
Do we need to make this another tab on the website along with the GIFs?
I might have to. I mean, at least the 3 Star Wars ones I have are Squeeze Me, How Wooed, and the Wilhelm scream.
Yeah.
Like, I think the Wilhelm scream is a terrific text tone.
It is. It's great. It's always. I feel like that's one that is been done.
It's attention grabbing, and it's like a calling card as an inside joke. Yeah, and I'll get those. I'll get those up there today. I'll see what I can do, and I'll create a new tab on liveactionsw.com.
There you go.
For and drop in ringtones. I think you could do that on. I think you drop in sound files into a thing. I think you can.
I'm sure there'll be a way of doing it. So neither of us particularly liked the character in 99, say 99, 2000, like those early years of episode 1 being the only thing. I didn't. I wasn't outwardly hating on it, but people would make jokes and I'd be like, yeah, okay. Like I was never defending Jar Jar. But I don't think I was actively making any particularly bad jokes or anything. And if I did, it was only ever the character. I was never, ever one of these people that went after Ahmed Best or anything like that. I always, same as you, I was always like, it's a technical, like really good piece of technical advancement. And he was there. He was performing it. We've all seen the pictures of him with like the head on and then the full suit. And then
I have an enamel pin. I have an enamel pin of that.
Yeah, it's an iconic look, and the like the visor that he had over his eyes, it's amazing. And you hear him talking about it now, and it's like he is as responsible for the creation of that character as George is. So when everyone was going off and sort of saying how it was a racial stereotype and it was a betrayal of like black people and everything, it was like he did that. He was responsible for that. A African-American man was responsible for every choice that was made. That voice was his choice. Like he decided to do that in the room. And everything about it. So it's like, you don't have to like it, but you do have to sort of respect it in that way.
Right.
I think
if you watch the beginning, which is the episode 1 documentary, like watching him and George is an absolute joy.
Yeah.
Those guys are having the most fun.
Yeah.
And they know they're both doing something cutting edge. And you know, they were probably pushing the character. George probably wanted to make Jar Jar cartoony.
Yeah.
Because why else would you animate it? Why else would you animate a character unless you're going to push what it can do?
Yeah.
It's one of my issues with like Pixar.
Why do you look for someone in Stomp? Like you're casting a dancer, like a song and dance man. Like absolutely.
Why you cast a mime to play C-3PO?
Yeah.
Like he's doing it for the physical nature of the character. And like I've had this issue with Pixar where they try to do everything photorealistic. And it's when you have a freaking complex, a compound full of artists, why are you spending that time making things look real? Why aren't you pushing the artistic boundaries? It's why I'm excited about Ninja Turtles coming out. That's why I'm excited about the Spider-Verse movies, because it's like, this is artists pushing the medium. And so if you're out there setting out to create the first CGI character, you want it to look like it's in the environment, but why do you want to make it move real? If you wanted it to look realistic and also make it move real, then you would just get a suit. But Lucas could make the boundaries.
That's it. Like
so, like George Lucas in '77 got ILM to sort of push what was possible special effects wise.
Yeah.
Star Wars is known as being a special effects movie, and George really, if you watch Light and Magic, you could see how hard those guys worked to do it.
Yeah.
Then there's the Pixar machine, which I believe was at the time was built under Lucasfilm.
Yeah, it was. I mean, that's in Light and Magic as well. Like that is a creation of that.
George Lucas seen the technology. Then Jurassic Park comes out, and he's like, "What? 4 years later?" It's like puts dinosaurs back in. It puts Star Wars special edition puts like a Ronto in there, and he's like, "Well, let's see how Jabba the Hutt looks." It gets to a point where he's like, "Okay, we can get CG characters into Star Wars.
Yeah,
let's really push it. Let's really make a statement. Let's do something that's like, going to be eye catching." And in order to do that, to get a character to do things that, a suited actor couldn't do, you want to have something like crazy. You want to have the stretchy tongue. Like, what if his tongue is long?
Yeah.
Oh, you can't do that. It doesn't, like Sice Noodles, we barely got our mouth to open.
Yeah. But we can have a gag, and it is like you can like I can just picture George having a little giggle about the gag of him doing that, and then showing the reflexes of the Jedi by having Qui-Gon catch it. It's all there, and I mean, and that technology advancement continued on even after George was done making the movies, because you'd had the Tartarovsky animated Clone Wars stuff, and they sort of took some of that design style, but then to do a full CG show wasn't the first. There'd been others, but in 2008, like to do the full CG animated movie, and then the show, you look at that movie and the first season of that show and how the animation progressed and is still progressing to this day. That all comes from that idea of pushing technology forward, never being complacent with any of it. And Jar Jar was such a major leap for cinema. We talked about it. I can't remember where and when, but like it was probably when we were talking about Andy Serkis and the behind the scenes for The Force Awakens, and how Andy Serkis is always credited as being like this godfather of motion capture. And yes, to a certain extent, he is the pinnacle of that. But he wasn't the originator. Like, and not even Ahmed Best is the originator of that, but he was such a foundational piece of it. Like, you can't have the conversation about motion capture characters without mentioning Ahmed Best. I don't think he is foundational, I think is the right word for it. It's he's there.
He should have been on the set of Force Awakens. I know that Andy Serkis had a role in that film. But I mean, I don't know. Like,
he's the sort of guy that you'd hope is in like the ILM family that is always there, like for this stuff whenever they're doing this
like
stuff.
Anthony Daniels is there to do droid school.
Yeah. How to move like a droid, how to do, or Warwick Davis whenever they've got to work with like little people and stuff like that. It's like he's always there. It's like, no, if you're going to be in a costume, you can still push that forward. I hope that the more that he's being brought back into the fold, he's essentially just like always there. He's always that guy that they can call up.
Yeah. Especially now after sort of this outpouring of support after The Mandalorian, and just even seeing him in Jedi Temple Challenge.
Well, that's it.
It was just so good to see him back, and I gotta hand it to, like, I think Scott Bromley, who's he's the creator of that show.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was his idea or whose idea it was to bring him into the show as that character, but I mean,
I feel like it was one of those just like convenient moments in time where things were coming together all at the right time. So in 2018, Ahmed Best posts a picture of him and his son on the Brooklyn Bridge, and that's when he tells the world, this is where, like, I'm at the same spot where I almost took my own life way back when, and look at me now, I'm so glad that I didn't, and I've got this little guy here with me, and we get to experience this all together. And I feel like that was the moment when a lot of people, not everyone, but a lot of people went, oh fuck, like, And hopefully some of the people that were making those like poor taste jokes and stuff went, oh fuck, and they went, yeah, there's a guy behind all that. Like, there's a real person, and we had a real effect on it. I'm sure that there's disgusting people that got a kick out of that, but I would like to think and hope that the majority of people sort of stopped and went, not cool. Like, and either not cool for the people that were doing it, or not cool for themselves who may have been a part of it at some point or ever. And then later that summer, he comes out and he's at Star Wars Celebration and gets that rapturous applause, and that
it's the same thing that happened to Hayden Christensen. Exactly. It hasn't happened for Jake Lloyd yet, and
I don't think Jake Lloyd is there on his own journey yet. He was doing celebrations in the 2000s when he was still a kid. I remember seeing him in 2005, and he was a teenager essentially. He was like, but I hope that it gets there for him. I hope that he gets there and gets through his own problems and then is welcomed back into the fold. But it's one of those things that when you
bring him in some sort of capacity, like if they do those Jedi Knights Tales or whatever what are those called? Was that what they were called?
Which
one with like they had the Dooku story and
the Jedi Tale. Oh no, I don't know, whatever that series
Tales was. Of the Jedi?
Tales of the Jedi. That's it. Yeah.
But if they were to do something like that, where they do catch up on like sort of between Hayden Christensen and Jake Lloyd, that time period, and bring him in to do the voice for Anakin. I think that would be a great step, because I'm sure there's plenty of stories to be told. You know, I don't like going back in time, but
10 years of training, like, yeah.
But I feel
my biggest one of my biggest problems with episode 2 is that when he's in that bar, there's pod racing on TV and he doesn't even glance at it. I'm like, come on, like that was a big part of his childhood. You'd think he'd at least give it a look. But
I feel like that would work. Or even, I mean, I don't. There's all kinds of Grogu flashbacks going on.
Yeah.
If we can get a
him in the temple,
a pre-Hayden Christensen in the temple,
great.
Like he could have been in the same class.
Yeah.
Grogu,
they could have
been in the
both
same class.
studied under Yoda or something like that, or like both been kind of the outcast kids. Like, because Anakin came in too late, so he would have been older than anyone else that he may have studied with or like been partnered up with. Like, so yeah, maybe him.
I'm sure he's like 20. He's probably like 20 or 30 or something.
He might be around 30 now, I would have thought.
It was like 23 years ago, and he was probably like 10. So he's probably like 33, something like that. But I mean,
he's a few years younger than me. I know that, but yeah.
So I don't know if he passes a
but you look at the difference between him and Daniel Logan, and it's like Daniel Logan, who seemed to always have his head on and knew what he was doing, like didn't get the abuse. I think that's the key, is he didn't get abused online by it all. Like, I'm sure there was people that didn't like him as young Boba, but like he didn't get that abuse. So he was able to sort of come in, and now he's just the most excited person whenever there's anything Boba related, and comes in and does voices and things like that. Like he's there. Then seeing that, and then that rapturous applause that he got at Celebration, I feel like that was 2018. They're probably already in development on a version of Jedi Temple Challenge, whatever it becomes. And then they're like, well, look, the quote unquote real people, the people that have a loud voice and not online, an in-person loud voice. We've talked about Celebration and what an amazing place it is. The people who care, the people who are going to watch this show, the people who are going to show their kids this show, are in this room or are watching this online. Like they care. They want to see this, and they want to see him. And so they took it to him, and he did that. And it was great. We talked about Jedi Temple Challenge ages ago, like in one of our early episodes.
4th episode or something.
One of our really early episodes, and we talked about how great it was then and how good it was to see Ahmed Best then. And
then, what's funny is that the fact that they took that character, gave him the same last name as his cameo in Attack of the Clones.
Same surname, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It wasn't. Yeah. Keller and Beck. Yeah.
Kelleran Beck and Ahmed
Ahmed. Yeah.
It's like they even though the show doesn't need to be in canon or anything, they had the foresight to just be like, let's make it so it makes sense in case, because someone's going to come asking.
There's always going to be
Star
those
Wars
people.
fans have attention to detail. They're going to be like, why does this guy looks just like that guy from the cantina? Like, the diehards are going to know that.
Mm-hmm.
And so the fact that they did that was great.
Yep. That's the sort of like world building. It means nothing. It matters like for nothing, but it's a cute little thing.
Stevie just texted me.
Stevie just texted.
Yeah.
We've had all three.
So, yeah, that's great. I'm just gonna keep it on because I don't know. I can't think of any other ringtones I have out there for specific people. But the just the appearance of that character from Jedi Temple Challenge showing up in The Mandalorian was absolutely insane, because I didn't hear them say Kelleran while they first say it, and
they
then
do say it. Yeah, get him to Kelleran, get him to Kelleran. And I think I heard it on the second time they said Kelleran, and I was like, Kelleran, I know that name. Kelleran Beck. Why do I know that name? And then by the time my brain had processed and had remembered who that character was, the doors opened.
So for me, I didn't notice, and the doors opened, and I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
And in my brain, both me and Stevie are like yelling at the screen, like, is it Kelleran Beck? Is it him? Is it from Jedi Temple Challenge? I'm like, someone say his name. In the moment, I wasn't processing because the dialogue when they say get him to Kelleran,
it's in the middle of a battle
background, it's kind of drowned out. But then they end up saying his name, and I was like, holy shit, this is nuts.
They lent into the lore of the character that it's the stuff that him and that droid would chat about, the sabered hand. They would just talk about nonsense stuff while the kids are doing their games. And they took some of that and used it and had him with the two blades and being this amazing fighter. That's so good. He talked about he's
a martial artist now.
Yeah, he went and got his black belt.
And he's a dancer.
Yep.
So he can really look. He looks good on screen.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he knows how to perform dance and
fighting choreography
to do amazing fight choreography. And that scene
was probably my favorite scene of same
in that season of Mandalorian.
Yeah. I think so. It's the scene that I think about the most when I think about the season of The Mandalorian.
But also there's something about it that's kind of like, here's a guy whose character wasn't embraced, holding a character that everybody instantly fell in love with.
Yep. Being the one who saves that character. The only reason that character exists is
just those two together. Yeah. Seeing those two together, having a conversation. And the conversation, it's one of those things where she's at work today. She actually went to work. Every once in a while, she goes into the office once a month.
Yeah. And
so today she went. So she's working on her Wordle. I don't think she's watching us today at work, but it's one of those things where it felt like the biggest hug.
Yeah.
Is this thing that the fans love. And this person who the fans, or not, I wouldn't even call them fans, but people shit on in a scene together, just brought me so much joy. And being a fan of Ahmed, because I met him, I think 3 years ago.
Cool.
At Flappers.
Okay.
Flappers Comedy Club. Yeah. Why can't I think of his name? Pardo. Joe Pardo? No. Oh my gosh, why can't I think of his name? If Rick was here, he'd tell me, because
you're gonna get a text.
I think it's Joe Pardo, the comedian. I think it's Joe Pardo.
Okay.
Jimmy Pardo. There he is. So Jimmy Pardo was doing his Podcastathon. He does it every year.
Okay.
He does it at Flappers, and it's a super long, like an all day event, maybe even 24 hours, where he just does this live telethon for Smile Train, I believe is the. I was gonna say Don Pardo. I was trying so hard not to say Don Pardo. That's somebody else. So Jimmy Pardo. So he does this thing for Smile Train, and he brings in rotating guests throughout to discuss. One of them was Conan O'Brien, and one of them was Ahmed Best, and Rick DeMint, who does portraits. Who we talked to Rick. Go watch our portraits episodes.
Yeah, Rick's great.
He was doing stuff backstage. So so the guests that would come through, he'd take a picture, they'd sign it, and they'd raffle those off for charity.
Amazing.
So Rick's like, hey, listen, they give me 2 tickets, but I'm backstage the whole time. Do you want to go? And I'm like, I'll be in LA.
Yeah.
So it was like it was the weekend of Jorge's bachelor party. And so
cool, perfect.
We went the Sunday, I'm like, I'm already here. I was so tired. But I'm like, I'll go do it. And so I go in, I sit down, I eat some breakfast, which I think was like onion rings. I had some like onion rings at like 10 in the morning. And Rick was essentially like, anybody you see, come on. If you just come to the backstage, I'll let you in. And because they come after the interview.
Yeah.
You just come after the interview and I'll get a picture with him. Like, okay. So I did that with Conan and it was amazing. And I did it with Ahmed Best. And Ahmed Best was just like the sweetest guy. Like, he's so sweet. And I told him, I said, you know what, man? I said, I just love Jar Jar. I adore him. And I think I told him my ringtone is "Excuse Me." I said, is it fine if I get a picture? He said, yeah. And then Rick took a picture and I have that picture and it's great. Amazing. He's just one of those guys. Like, it sucks that, you know, here's this dude like who ended up in a Broadway show. He's in Stomp, and which is then catapulted. And George Lucas sees Stomp, and George is like,
they talk about his casting process on this podcast, where he wasn't the one that they were looking for when they went to see the casting
Michael
director
Jackson wanted to be it. Jar Jar as well.
Potentially, he might have just said that afterwards. He used to say a lot of things. Like the casting director for episode 1 went to see Stomp to see the person who was sort of filling in a role in Stomp in San Francisco when they were there. And he'd replaced Ahmed Best's role for that day because he had been brought in. But he was like a higher build person. Ahmed Best, being the young sort of cocky kid that he was at the time, was like, fuck this. And he outperformed him. He just was like, I'm going to go and do like an amazing solo. I'm going to go. He essentially stole the show, not knowing that this person was in the audience to see this like friend of his. And then got the call. And it was the friend who was like, no, they want to see you. And it was like, there was like a friendly rivalry thing. He's like, I felt like I'm such a dick for doing it, but it led to this. And and then the next day he drove up to the ranch, and that's how the process got started for him.
And he's the thing is that sucks is he's such a nice guy.
And he
like, why be an asshole to such a nice guy?
Feel what you want to feel about the character. No one is ever going to tell you that you have to like Jar Jar Binks the character. If you do, great. If you didn't before and you do now, brilliant. If however you feel about the character of Jar Jar Binks is fine. But like, I would, if you don't like Ahmed Best, then there's something wrong with you, because he just feels like the nicest person.
Yeah, he was a sweetheart when I met him. Just like it was like we do the picture, the both of us hand around the shoulder. Like, I was just like, oh my gosh, I've never had my hand around my shoulder from a Star Wars person, let alone like such a like iconic one.
That's great.
You know, say what you will about the character, he is iconic,
and he is like main character of episode 1. Like, he is like one of the top build characters,
which drives me fucking nuts that Lucasfilm has not redeemed the character by at least putting Gungans. Gungans don't appear in any of the Disney era stuff. I'm trying to think maybe if there's the Clone Wars or one of the animated things.
There's episodes with Gungans in Clone Wars. There's quite a few. Like, there's a Jar Jar arc. Maybe not. It might have been, maybe that last season of the Clone Wars that they did, the Netflix season, season 6. There's a Jar Jar and Mace Windu arc. And now in publishing, in the High Republic, there's Gungans. There is a Gungan, like the Nile are the bad guys, and in the first book of the High Republic, one of their like top guys is a Gungan, and it's kind of like essentially a bad pirate Gungan, which is an interesting take on the character. It's like, it's fun to see, and you don't know that it's a Gungan because you're reading it on the page. You don't know that it's a Gungan until about halfway through the book. You've read this character, you've built this character up as like this badass, and then it's revealed that it's a Gungan. And you're like, oh, that I wasn't expecting that. That's really cool.
That's great.
So they're in there, but I know what you mean. And so when Chuck Wendig's Aftermath books came out, one of them they were the first books to come out like in the build up to post Return of the Jedi storyline wise. And there's a lot of cutaways to what characters are doing around the galaxy, characters that we may have seen before, things like that. Cobb Vanth's introduced. We find out about the armor. We find out about like the acolytes of the Beyond, which kind of turn into like the cult of the Sith, kind of those guys, all of that. And one of the cutaways is never named as Jar Jar, but it is 100% Jar Jar. And I've mentioned it before, and you really don't like it. My opinion of it has changed. And you see Jar Jar as this disgraced, like, former senator, former general. He's at the fountain in Theed, and he's performing for kids. And you're in his head, and he is a clown. He's a joke. He is the sad clown, essentially. He's that stereotype. But with the knowledge that and it's the guilt that he's feeling. It's the responsibility that he feels for a lot of what went wrong and a lot of the Empire's rise. He has taken that guilt on. And then that's the last we see of him. So he's canonically alive at that point in time, but like, we don't know where he's at mentally. We don't know what he's doing. And it is a sad thing. Now, at the time, I was like, that's interesting. That's cool. It's kind of nice that they're acknowledging the guilt. He's still like, he is a goof. He's always going to be a goof. That's just who he is as a person. So he's still doing that. He's trying to entertain kids. He is entertaining kids. So there's a bit of a like, hey, he's making kids happy. That's what Jar Jar is for. But he's got that guilt of the things that he is partially responsible for. Yeah, Jeremy Kelly's here. They did Jar Jar dirty. I don't think that was the intention. But I do think now, and you saying like you think that they haven't done him justice, I do think that you can have that story still exist and then do something else. When we were doing
have Gungans.
Have Gungans.
Like how many alien bars and shit have we seen in The Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett? Obi-Wan.
You can throw a Gungan in the
Obi-Wan series.
We talked about it. We had our entire plot point that we would have loved to have seen of Obi-Wan meeting up with Jar Jar at Dexter's diner, and again, him feeling that guilt, but it's the way that you get through it. And now I feel like we've adapted that scene that we sort of workshopped, and we could fit it in with it being Keller and Beck sitting down with Jar Jar. And them having a conversation, and because of that guilt that Jar Jar feels, he could like be partly responsible for keeping Grogu alive. And I think that would be great. If we know that Kelleran's going to take him to some friends, we know that he got on a Naboo cruiser. Why not Jar Jar? Why not Gungans? Like, go see those people. They can keep him safe.
Put Gungans in literally anything, and I think I don't know. I'm gonna put it squarely on his shoulders.
I think maybe
it's
now
Favreau's fault. I'm gonna blame Favreau, because here's the thing: Favreau, every time he does an interview talking about Star Wars, he talks about things that are cool.
Yeah,
which is fine.
Even in the interview with Ahmed Best, when they say like Favreau and Filoni emailed him. They got in contact. They went and sat down, and they sort of said to him, "Do you want to be in this? We've got this thing that we want to do. Do you want to do this?" And he said, "I'll think about it." At first, he wasn't sure if he wanted to come back because Jedi Temple Challenge is a different beast. This would be, I'm front and center in the biggest Star Wars thing. Like, and they assured him that, you know, it'll be cool. And like, as soon as I heard them say that, I was like, that was Favreau that was saying it'll be cool. Like Filoni, they were like, it'll be cool, and we're going to protect you in terms of not like from backlash or anything like that, but in terms of the character, people won't be able to say that this is goofy and silly. Like, so I can feel it being like Filoni saying, we're going to protect the character, we're going to honor the character, like honor you and what you do. And then Filoni be like, yeah, it'll be cool.
Like, I don't think Favreau thinks Gungans are cool.
I don't think he does.
I really don't. I guarantee you he doesn't. No. He seems like a original trilogy guy, which is fine.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Filoni does. And Filoni put like all that stuff, all those arcs into Clone Wars.
Filoni, I know it's probably done by now, but just put a fucking Gungan in Ahsoka. Just put a Gungan in there. Would it really? I guarantee you, if you put a Gungan in the background of a city scene,
a Gungan,
the fans are going to notice, and it's going to explode.
I want a Gungan in a New Republic officer's uniform.
I wanted anything. Just, I swear to God, if they drop one anywhere in the background in a crowd, someone's going to see that, and the internet's going to go ape shit.
Monument Plaza was the perfect time to see some Gungans. Like there was creatures of all kinds there. Yeah.
Make Gungan in Ahsoka.
Make Biomes 2 happen, and hashtag put a Gungan in Ahsoka. As our platforms, and we will die on those hills.
It doesn't make any sense to me. It really doesn't. Like the Gungans feel like sort of the Green Lantern of Star Wars.
Yeah, why are they not there yet? Like,
they're just so a thing that people didn't like once has now been like sort of blacklisted from everything.
Yeah.
Like you can't find Green Lantern shit anywhere. There's a new Match 3 DC game that I downloaded yesterday. There's not a single Green Lantern character that you can unlock.
So wow, considering how big in comics, like Blackest Night and that whole thing was. It was the biggest thing in comics, like in 2008 or whatever it was.
Yeah. Well, 2000, yeah. And then 2011 came along.
Yeah.
But that's what it feels like for me. Like, would it kill you? Would it kill you to stick a Gungan in the background? I'm sure you still have the assets. The assets. Imagine a Gungan with shading and lighting that they have now.
It'd be incredible. I think Mando season 4. I think we're gonna get it in Mando season 4. I don't know if we're gonna get it before.
We've said that in everything. I think Dave Filoni without Favreau. Is Favreau involved with Ahsoka?
Favreau's, I mean, he's gonna have his name as an exec producer, but I don't think he's done anything on it. Like, he's not been actively.
Well, I think that's the thing. But it would have happened in Obi-Wan.
There's so much. There's so much going on with Ahsoka. I don't know if there's room. I don't know if
Tony Gilroy. I want Tony Gilroy to be the guy who's like not even really.
You see a pre-human Naboo where the Gungans are the dominant species.
Well, I mean, this is post Clone Wars. So if it's an Andor, unless that's a flashback, but
I was talking about the Tony Gilroy one, like the Dawn of the Jedi one. Oh no, Tony Gilroy's Andor. Like no, I'm thinking of what's his name?
Yeah, I don't know. I think what Filoni would do, and this would be so fucking crazy, practical Gungan.
I mean, I'm not opposed to it.
I mean, they did it with Maz Kanata for some reason.
Yeah. I'm not opposed to it. If they want to do it, then, and I think that they could do it and it would look great. I don't think
a New Republic senator. That's a practical Gungan.
Absolutely. Like it does. Like it's another representative of Naboo. Hell, we've seen that they either can't be trusted and become emperors, or they die of a broken heart and marry Sith Lords in secret. let's the only other one, the only one that was getting policy put through was the Gungan. Let's go with the Gungan.
So Lucha asks, "Is Maz was practical?" In the Rise of Skywalker, they made Maz practical. They did not do the motion capture. It's nuts.
It is nuts. I'm gonna have to cut it off because we got to wrap up. I got to go to work.
We're going along on our Jar Jar episode.
It was gonna happen. I knew it was gonna happen. Jar Jar's
here's
great.
the thing.
Ahmed Best is the best.
Here's the thing. Let us know in the comments below other characters that you would like to see us cover for a full Data Link episode. Yeah. So anytime we don't have a Data Link
characters big
thing to talk about, just like, I don't know if I could do a whole thing on Captain Tarples, but Dexter Jetster, I think we could probably get pretty close. Wedge, obviously, Bosk, probably. Yeah. But I mean, Jar Jar's a pretty main character.
Yeah.
So
I think the Jar Jar level is great. And also there's a story to tell with Jar Jar as well. There's other stuff outside of just the character that we can talk about.
Yeah.
Follow us on all the socials and everything, and we will be back next week talking about what we're talking about, Ralph.
Rogue One.
Star
Wars story.
Maybe with a guest.
Maybe. We'll see.
Hopefully that'd be great. But maybe not. Rogue One next week. Go watch it. It's an amazing movie. Don't give it to hate.
Celebrate the love.
Missy, your best friend.